So today is week 9, so we've got 3 classes left after today. Next week, yep, only 3, incredible. Next week, probably in the first hour of class, although I'm not exactly sure what time. A couple people from the marketing department asked if they could drop by our class for 10 minutes. They need to create some promotional materials for the Lakehead program, so they asked if they could take a few pictures in a few classes, so they're going to be here. I also said if anybody has any Lakehead swag, wear it to class. Please wear it to class if you have a sweatshirt or something for branding purposes. So they won't be here very long. They'll keep a low profile and try not to disturb us. Okay, assignment 2 is now posted on D2L, so I want to go over that with you guys. So it counts for 20%. And it's due in 2 weeks on the Thursday. I know our .NET assignment is broken up into 3 components. One is due next week, and then 1 component is due in 3 weeks and 4 weeks. So nothing, you never have anything due. You don't have 2 things due the same week, but you do have stuff to submit 4 weeks in a row. But that's because I broke up your .NET assignment. So your node assignment is worth 20%. And all you need to submit is a Git repository link and a link to the live site. Okay. You have to do this on your own. You can't share code or do it together with somebody else. Okay. So I've kind of given you 2 options here. Option number 1 is build a node site to use to keep track of items you need to buy when you go to the grocery store. Okay, so this would be an application that may be shared among everybody within one house. Right, so somebody finishes the milk, they can go onto the site and log, hey, we need milk. And then whoever goes to the store, they can see what's there. Okay, so that's one option. I've kind of defined one. The other option is do something else. So if there's something else that you have, I mean, I know you're already building your own project for ASP.NET. If there's another kind of application you would prefer to build, as long as it's got authentication, create, read, update, and delete, you can do something else. All I ask is if you pick something else, just email me and tell me what it is you want to do. But it is open if you want to do something else, that's fine. I would suggest you build something different from your ASP.NET applications, so that way you have 2 separate sites, completely separate rather than 2 versions of the exact same thing. You're allowed to look at the Git repository for reference. Please don't download it and do find and replace and say, here you go, here's my working CRUD app. Okay, it's there for you to reference, not as a boilerplate. So you're going to create a new application. You can use the Express generator for that. You'll create a new database on MongoDB and use Mongoose to connect your application. You'll use a templating engine. I suggest you use HBS since that's what we've been using all term. If you want to take a stab at experimenting with one of the other template engines, you're free to do so, but you have to learn it on your own if you want to do that. You'll build a controller to handle all of the routes in your site. You'll do a little bit of customizing of the look and feel. So to get marks for this, it can't look exactly like our task tracker. Make it look a little different. If you get a third-party style sheet, make sure you give credit to where the source comes from. So there should be a home page that's kind of a splash page that describes the application. There needs to be a public page that has read-only data for anonymous users. So if you're doing the grocery site, it would just see, here's all the things on the grocery list, but it's read-only, user can't change it. If you're building your own site, whatever data you've got in there, again, you've got a read-only version for anonymous users. Then users can register and log in. And once they register and log in, they have the ability to add, edit, and delete. Delete should have our confirmation. That you can just copy directly out of our in-class application. You don't need to change it. So there should be 2 types of login. There should be a local login and any one of Google, GitHub, or Facebook. We'll actually go through all of them today. So you just have to integrate one of those. And then I've given you a list of you have to add one additional feature of your own choosing. And you need to document this in the README file. This was my extra feature, so I know what I'm looking for. So I've listed some. So you could do an additional social provider in addition to the ones listed. You could create a REST API that will return all the data in JSON format. You can create an API that takes a post so users can send a new item in JSON. You could allow file uploads, keyword search, or you could think of some other feature that you would prefer to add instead. Just make sure whatever it is, put it in the README file. So there may be some other feature that you think is more appropriate. Something that shows independent learning outside of what we've done in class. So here's the breakdown. So most of it is for getting your controllers with create, read, update, and delete working and authentication. That's the bulk of the marks. Everything else is smaller. Yes, I'm giving you a mark for putting comment in your code. You'd be amazed how helpful they are when you have to go back to your old projects. Because it's often really hard to remember how and why you made certain decisions and what's happening, even some of the business logic. When you have to go back and change things you did a long time ago, your comments are invaluable. So you have 13 days to do this. Do almost 2 full weeks, 13 and a half days. Do 5 o'clock, not next Thursday, but the Thursday after that. Does anybody have questions about any of the requirements? If you're creating them with Node, yes. If it's just HTML and CSS, no. Something that shows independent learning basically with the technology stack we're using. So if you're not sure what to do, well, then you can simply pick one from the list. But the last item in the list is kind of your freedom to choose something else in addition. John? Is there anything for the unique edition that you like outlaw now? Just like you don't want to see it or something like that? No, not really. I mean, if there's something you're not sure, if you have something for an idea and you're not sure, then just send me an email and say, this is what I'm thinking of doing. Is this acceptable? Right? Just ask is the easiest thing to do. And I will give you an immediate response to that. Okay, so the assignment is up now. And we're basically working with pretty much I'm assessing all the things we've learned since you submitted your portfolio assignment, which didn't use the database, didn't use authentication. So those are obviously the biggest pieces of this assignment. So looking forward, I'll just pull up our syllabus for just a second. So we got 3 classes left after today. We're not going to do a lab today. We're going to skip that. So we've got yeah, we can ignore those. So we've got 3 more classes. So what we're going to do, I think what we're going to do is I've been spending some time trying to decide whether we're going to use Angular or whether we're going to use React. I've decided we're going to use Angular. And the reason simply is with the amount of time, React, each of these could really be an entire course, particularly React. My concern if we start using React is we're not going to get far enough into it because it's quite a different way of thinking about things that we're actually going to be able to produce anything with the 3 classes we have left. I know in working with Angular, that we can definitely integrate Angular. What I'd like to have done in week 12 in our last class, is I want to rebuild our task manager as a single page application where users can do create, read, update, and delete, and the page will never reload. That it just dynamically changes in real time as we do updates. I know that it's reasonable with 9 hours of doing Angular, we can get that to work. My concern with React is we'll get like halfway through it and not actually have anything working. So I think we will do it. We will use Angular instead. And then that will be part of the component for the final exam. All right. All right, so I'm going to get my task manager up and running. I think there was one small item from last week that we didn't quite finish. Yeah, I'd messed up my little JavaScript that was comparing the passwords when users signed up. So I fixed that. So we should clean that up and then we can get into social authentication. So I'm going to launch my application. On port 3000. So the issue was we had written a script at the end of class, near the end of last week's class. I'd written this script, but I think if I go and look on GitHub, I think I didn't use the same variable name all over the place. I think I used the variable pwmsg in some lines and psmsg in other lines. If I just look at my Git repository, I think I messed that up. Just go have a look. So my JavaScript that was comparing the password and the password confirmation wasn't exactly working. So here was the file I did at the end of class. Sorry, bear with me for a second. So in my scripts file, this variable should be pwmsg, and also my document.getElementID should be the same, pwmsg, and I need to go check my register.hbs file. Yeah, I think I fixed this after the end of class. So this here beside our confirm box, I may have called this psmsg. It should be PW, password message. So make sure this ID here on line 15. Yeah, I think I had it as PS. It has been changed in the Git repository, I believe. And then any references to it in the script file, I think there were a couple places where I had pwmsg and a couple other places I had PS. It all has to match. Doesn't really matter what you call it, but we can't use two separate things. So if I try this now, if I try to register, if I have two different passwords, oh, my script is not working still. Hang on. Let me try this again. Okay, let's look at our logic. What did I do wrong? So we're getting our two values. We'll just debug it this way for a minute. So I'm going to return false in either case, and I'm just going to use the alert to display each value. Oops. Yeah. Yep. Yep, because of all the node modules. Okay, so I don't think my script is running here. Something's not quite right because my script never ran. Why? Well, I'm going to look in my JavaScript console. So I'm going to see if I get any kind of JavaScript error here. So our script file is included. Well, the version I'm working with is the same as the one on GitHub. And I had it working, but now it's not working. So I'm trying to figure out what I did. So when we click the button, this should. But I don't know that our script is running. All right, I'll maybe have to figure it out when we take a break. It's not running our script. I'm not exactly sure why it isn't. It should actually be comparing the passwords even right as we type. Yeah, I'm not sure because the script should be firing as I'm typing. But it isn't. All right, I will come back to this. I will find a solution for it. I had it working, but now I'm a bit confused. Password message. Password message. So our script just isn't firing for some reason. All right, I'll think about that. I'm going to stop my server for just a minute. We've gotten a few warning messages as well about a couple of our NPM packages, which I've ignored, but we may want to try to fix them. So I'm going to run the command Npm Audit because it gives us warnings. It was giving us warnings last week. So there's a couple of packages. There's a couple of package updates here. So it says we got 3 vulnerabilities. We've seen this before. So 2 of them are moderate and 1 is high. And it says you can run npm audit fix to fix one of them. But I think we tried that and it didn't do anything. So we can deal with these manually. So if I look in here, it says handlebars, which is a dependency of the HBS package. As long as we've got version 4.3.0 or greater, we'll be okay. So if we go to package.json, we do have 4.3.3 of handlebars. So that warning we can probably ignore. And then, however, I'm just going to update HBS and update handlebars. We'll see if that improves anything. So we can do npm update. This will grab the latest version of this package. And then I'll do the same with HBS. And then we'll run the audit again. So it did fix one of the vulnerabilities, because notice up at the top of my terminal before I had 3 vulnerabilities and now I have 2. I'm going to try to update HBS as well. So that removed that high vulnerability. We've only got 1. So if I try the npm audit now, we're better. I'm going to ignore this because it's saying there was a denial of service vulnerability in handlebars that's patched in 4.4.5. We're now using 4.5.1. So why we're still getting this, I'm not exactly sure. So we're down to 1 moderate vulnerability. So if you get those warnings, you can run the audit, you can see which packages are throwing the warnings, and you can update those packages manually. So we want to implement social authentication. We've already installed Passport and Passport Local. Well, there are other Passport packages that we can use. So let's start, maybe we'll add a Google login first to our app. So for this, we're going to use a package called Passport Google Auth 2.0. There are some other packages. The original one that was done was just called Passport Google. That hasn't been updated in a long time. This one is newer. It's also a little dated, but not as dated as the original Passport Google. So we're going to install this package. Then we're going to need to go to Google and set up a new application in the web developer console, get a set of API keys, and then we can integrate this package for Google sign-in. So let's install passport-google-Auth 20. And we can probably get our site running again. So I'll use NodeMon, turn the site back on. There's also a sign in with Google button that I've posted on D2L in the week 9 folder. So if you want to go there, you can download that image. Where should we download it to? Where would image files generally go? So inside of public. And yeah, we have an empty images folder here. So let's grab, if you don't have an images folder, you can just create it inside of public. We'll go to the content folder. So I'll just save this image into public. If you don't have, I think the images folder is not there by default. JavaScripts and style sheets is there, so you can just create an images folder and just save that as google.png. While we're here, we may as well grab the Facebook and GitHub sign-in images as well. And I'll just, sorry? Well, there's different ways. You can make it a button and still apply an image property. And I'll just, I think this one I'll change the name, so it just is called github.png. So we can add this to our login view so that it shows up. And then we'll have to configure things both in the Google console as well as within our own app so it can work. We can start our server again. We're kind of done in the terminal for now. And if I go to my login, after my login button, I'm going to put in a link that goes to /Google. This will be a route we'll have to handle. And then I'll put my image in here. So this should give us the sign in with Google button beside our login button. Sorry, I'll just pull it up quickly so we can see both. So now on my login screen beside our green login button, we get the sign in with Google button. We click it right now, what will happen? Right? We get a not found because it's going to localhost / Google. We have not handled that route. So we get a not found. So our next step is going to be to go to the Google Development Console and set up a new application, generate a client ID and client secret, and also enter our redirect URI. So after someone signs in with their Google account, Google knows where to return the user. So I've just added lines 19 through 21 here, if you're looking at the code. So let's open a tab and go to the Google Developer Console. I know we've already done this once in our other class. Useful to do it again because you guys do need to do it in your assignment, at least in your .NET assignment. So I'll go to the Google Developer Console. So it's just developers. It's developers.google.com. Actually, I think it's, sorry, we want to go to the console. Console.developers.google.com. So all we've done in our app is add the Google button, download the image, and we've installed Passport Google Oauth 2.0. So this defaults to the last project that we were in. So I want to create a new project. So in here, I'll click my project drop down. And then I've got the option at the top right here to create a new project. So I'm going to create a new one. So I'll call COMP2068. And then we'll create the project. You can call yours anything you like. I'll just call mine COMP2068G Task Manager. Just takes a minute, my project's set up, and then I should be able to go to the credentials section over here on the left. So, whoops, sorry, here's the odd thing. I created the project, but I have to switch to it. It lets me create the project, but then it doesn't actually take me, I'm still in my last project. This is my Tuesday class. So once the project's created, if I click the project drop down again, then I can select my new project. So it wants me to create credentials. So I want an OAuth client ID, this second option, because we're using OAuth. So our app can access user data. That's what we want. So we'll choose that. Oh, and it tells us we have to configure the consent screen first. That's fine. So our application name will be something descriptive. And by default, here's what you get. We actually get the user's email and profile. I only will need to do an authorized domain if I publish this. So if I do want to publish this to Heroku, okay, we'll leave that for now. So I'll just save that. All I really needed was the project name. And now it brings me back, what type of application is this? Obviously, it's web. And down at the bottom, we need a redirect URI. So where does the user get sent back to after a successful Google login? Now, when we use ASP.NET, it automatically defines where users have to go. It has to go to our domain /signin-Google. Hint, that's on your quiz this afternoon. With Node, we define the callback route. It's not predefined. So we can call our callback route anything we want. So I'll call it /Google/callback. So this is where Google is going to send our users. Sorry, did you have a question? You need to go into console.developers.google.com, choose the project, there's a project drop down right at the top beside where it says Google APIs, and then you'll choose create a new project and give it a name. So you can put in any redirect URI you like here, but I'll use localhost 3000 /Google/callback. No, because notice there's multiples. So if I hit enter, I get another box. So I could put my live domain here. So if this is your assignment and you're choosing to use Google login, do both. Do localhost while you're developing, and then you'd put in your live site. Same thing. Actually, you know what? No, let me just check my Heroku site. I think I've deployed this to Heroku already, but I'm just going to log in because we can add it. We'll add both the local and the live. I'll do that so that when I push to GitHub, it should automatically deploy to Heroku. So just, yeah, we've got Task Manager. So if I go to so here, I'm going to grab my Heroku live link now. So I'm going to grab that domain. It's probably going to ask me to authorize the domain. So in here, I'll also try Google/callback. Right. So it says you must add it to the authorized domains list. So localhost, it'll allow me to add right away. This one, it wants me, any live one, it wants me to add to an authorized domain. So I'm going to click on that and it'll bring me back to the screen we were on previously where we put in the name. And here, oh, so it doesn't want me to specify HTTP or HTTPS. So this is my subdomain, my task manager. We'll see if it allows this. There, okay, without a slash at the end. And then if I hit enter, now it's here. So there's no HTTPS and no trailing slash. And once I hit enter, now my save button is enabled. So it canceled me out of the credential screen. So I have to go back and redo it. Whoops. I didn't want that. I want to create an Oauth. So I'll put this in again. So I'll have both my local host, Google callback. So I'll hit enter. And then I'll also put in my live Heroku domain / /Google/callback and hit enter. So now I can run it on both. I can run it locally and I can run it live. And then I can just click create, and this should generate the client ID and client secret keys that we'll need. So it tells me OAuth is limited. I get 100 logins until you actually publish the consent screen. For our purposes, that's fine. I don't think we need to worry about that. In order to publish it, there are a few other things Google wants, like a privacy policy, terms of service. But you can just add links to those things in the consent screen. So here's my ID and secret. So we want to set up these credentials in our global file. So I'm going to copy my client ID here. And then we'll come back and grab the secret in a minute. So inside of globals, right now we've got our database connection. I'll add I'm going to add a subarray called IDs, where we can store all the API keys for the various providers. So within Google, we're going to set client ID, and we can paste in the ID. Notice also the ID, it's not fully camel cased. Both the I and the D are capital. That's what Google calls it. And then the client secret, we can go and copy as well. If you ever need to see them again, you just go in and edit. If you click the edit client, the ID and secret are right here at the top for you. Or you need to change the callback, the redirect URIs, you can just edit it. So I'll paste in my secret. And the last thing it wants is a callback URL. Now there's a bit of a gotcha here. We have to specify the local or the live URL. So when we're running it locally, my callback URL is going to be my local version. But if I want to publish this, I'm going to have to change the domain to use my live domain. Later on, we'll set up Facebook and GitHub in much the same way. ID, secret, and callback. I'll maybe put a comment in here. Callback URLs must be toggled to live domain addresses before publishing. So if I commit this to GitHub, we'll get a redirect error if I try and run it from Heroku, because it's trying to redirect to the local host instead. We're going to need to make changes in 3 other places. We're going to want to modify our user model a little bit. Right now, our user model, it only has 2 properties, right? It's got username and it's got password. And if I go and open up my MongoDB, just shrink this down so you can see the code a bit. So I'm going to connect to my database, and we can maybe have a quick look. So inside my tasks database, we have some users. I'm going to delete some of these users I created this morning. I don't need them when my register wasn't working. So these are the two users I created last week. So user 3 and user 4, we have a username, we have a salt, and we have a hash value. If we look at our user model, we have two properties. We got username and password. We're not going to get a password if somebody signs in with Google. Google's not going to send us their Google credential. But what we are going to get is we're going to get an ID from Google. We probably also want to store what provider are they using, because we're going to allow Google, Facebook, and GitHub. So if someone signs in with any one of those services, we want to track which service are they actually using for sign-in. So we're going to add a couple of fields here. Maybe we'll add 3 fields. We'll add an Oauth ID field, which will be a string. We'll add an Oauth provider, so we can look at all our users and we can see, okay, who are all the users who sign in with Google. And the other thing maybe we'll do is just timestamp when it is that those accounts were created. We don't really need this, but it can be useful. We want to see how old are certain accounts, who are our new users, who are our older users, for example. So we'll add these to our user model. So we've done some of our setup, but we're not done yet. Our app is not configured to use that package we installed yet, that Passport Google Oauth. And we haven't done anything in terms of handling the root. So if I go back and click my login button, I'll still get this 404. We've never told the application what to do at /Google. So we're going to have to configure in app.js. We got to configure that package and then write some code to tell the app how to process Google logins in working with that npm package. That's going to take us a little bit to do. It's 10 to 9. So what I'm going to do, I will pause here, stop the video, upload the changes I've made so far, and we'll resume after we have a little break.